So welcome to this Did You Know session from BlazeMeter. We're going to look at how we can create consistent address data to use within your BlazeMeter tests. So what do we mean by this? So let's imagine your application involves you entering some data about a user. Now it'll be their name, it may be their address, which would contain the street, the city, the state, and perhaps the zip code. So how can we ensure that that data is consistent? So the city actually exists within that state and perhaps the zip code is valid for that city-state combination. We're going to show you how we can do this within BlazeMeter and how you can leverage this powerful feature within your tests. So we need to start with a test, and here's our JMeter test. And within the test, we've defined a CSV file. We can call it user addresses. And these are the variable names that are used within the test. And as you can see, as well as the names of the users, we've also got their street address, their city, their state, zip code, and country. So we need to take this test and load it into BlazeMeter. So we're in BlazeMeter, we've created a performance test, and within this test we've defined the load configuration. So number of users, duration of the test, and the location the test will run. We now need to upload our script, the one we just looked at. Here's that JMX. We load it into BlazeMeter, and the first thing we're going to do is identify any CSV files that have been defined inside that JMX. And as you can see on the right hand side, that user address CSV file has been associated with our test data panel. And the next thing we need to do is to obviously load the data. Now we could load the CSV file that we've already got, or we can actually generate data by adding a data parameter. So we're going to add here our data parameter called street name. Now we're going to use a multi-column seed list to get consistent data. And what that means is in our seed list, we're going to have the address, the city, the state, the zip code on a row. So we need to select the correct row of data so that we're consistent when we're actually getting the data for our test data. Now previously we've used the randoms functions to actually get the data from a seed list. So we need to actually be selective on the data we need. So we're going to look in our search function for our value, which is value from seed list. Now the main difference with value from seed list is you can select an individual row within your seed list. So we can see here we've got our examples. So we've got value from seed list. The seed lists that have multiple columns, as you can see here, actually say multi-col. And then you can select the row that you need and the column. So we're going to take this and load this into our function screen. And we preview it. So there you go, that's a street address. Now we can take that same function to then create our other parameters. So let's go and do another parameter for our city. We can copy in that same function, and all we need to do is to change the column. So now we're picking the city column. We do that again, and we pick this for the state. And finally, we'll do this for the zip code. So what we're doing here is selecting each of these parameters and then selecting the same row of data from our multi-column seed list. Now, when we actually then preview this in our data settings, as you can see there, we've got our data. And if we say we want 10 rows of data, we'll get 10 rows. But as you can see, that data is the same data. So we're selecting the same row each time. And obviously what we need to do is to select random data. And to do that, we need to actually then create another parameter. So we're going to go back to our data model and add a new parameter. And we're going to call this just randint. And this just shows how we can generate a random number within the data model. So again, we use our help to identify the function we need. And as you can see, it's very simple. All we need is the minimum number and the maximum number. And this will then generate us a random value between that minimum value and that maximum value. So as you can see there, we've got 5, we've got 457. We now need to take this new parameter and include it in our other parameters. So we're going to replace that number 2, where we were selecting the second row. We're going to replace that with our parameter that generates this random integer. And we now need to go through and modify our address, our city, our state, and our zip code to use this same value. And what will happen is at runtime, we will generate this random value, select that row from our data. The next record we select will get a new value for that random value and select another row. So we go and look at our data settings. And as you can now see, we've now got that data we need. Now the city, Las Vegas, is in Nevada, and that's a zip code. Same with Dallas is in Texas, San Francisco is in California. If I said I want 100 records, we would then get 100 values. So we're driving our seed list to give us this consistent address data. So what I've just shown you is how simple it is to generate these consistent addresses within BlazeMeter, and how you can then leverage that within your tests. So finally, go to our BlazeMeter platform, sign up, start testing today. We have free videos and also blogs on our BlazeMeter website, along with the BlazeMeter University, where we offer free courses. Thank you.